Okay, today I'm going to be reviewing Soul Mountain by Gao Xingjian. Gao Xingjian is a Nobel Prize winner in literature, of course. He was born in China in the 1940s during the Second Sino-Japanese War. He grew up through the Socialist Revolution, the Great Leap Forward, and the Cultural Revolution, as well as the aftermath of the Cultural Revolution. It's in this time between the 80s and the early 90s that he's written this book. Actually, it might be the late 80s. Let me just check real quick. 1982 to 1989, actually just through the 80s. He's written in both Beijing and Paris. He currently lives in France as far as I know. The time of publishing, he certainly was living in France. I believe that he's kind of an exile from China, partly because of this work, but because of other works in the past that were not acceptable for publication due to censorship. So he has a unique perspective, coming from the aftermath of the Cultural Revolution. If you don't know a lot about that, I highly recommend that you go at least look at the Wikipedia article or look up some videos on YouTube. The Cultural Revolution is such an influential part of any Chinese literature occurring after it, or during it for that matter. Anyway, Soul Mountain is a journey to the west in the simplest sense. It's a journey to Sichuan, which is a province in western China. It's a journey to Lingshan, or Soul Mountain, this mountain that apparently has like the essence or the soul of something, right? And it's a journey of exploration and getting there. I mean, it kind of has that like adage. It's like, it's the journey that counts, not the destination or whatever. And I think that's very true. I think it really isn't about the destination here. I mean, it really is completely about that journey. The book is very unique in the aspect that it is told in multiple perspectives. It's told in the first person, the second person, third person masculine, third person feminine. And there's also like some form of narrator involved who's omniscient at points. It's a bit hard to explain. Each chapter will utilize that point of view. So one chapter might be first person, and then the next chapter will be second person, and the chapter after that could be first person again. So we're constantly moving from I to you to she to he. And Mabel Lee, who has translated this from Chinese to English for us, has said in her introduction that this is part of the composite character, that these perspectives, these identities might be just considered one person. We don't know that for sure. We're never told the names of I, you, he, or she, so we never know who that composite character is. That's kind of unique. And for that matter, we don't really know who any of the characters are in this book. Names are rarely mentioned. It's pretty much pronoun based. It will always be she. Is it the same she? We don't know. We really don't know. It could be multiple different she's. And another thing that complicates that is that the story is told out of order. This is not a linear plot. This isn't told out of order. It's mixed up. And that makes it quite experimental. As for the writing style, Gao Xingjian has no problem experimenting with punctuation or syntax or anything like that. He really enjoys using quotation marks in one chapter, not using them in another, doing run-on sentences with commas only, doing couplets in some chapters. Sometimes in the middle of the paragraph, the style will suddenly just shift and change. Some chapters are written in a dream state, like stream of consciousness. Some of them seem very refined and edited. Very strange style. I don't think there's some consistency really in like what you should be expecting for the style. The book is also very long. I guess it depends what you think is long, but it's 500 or so pages long, a little over 500, I think. Which is pretty long for a book without a consistent plot. Really, there's no plot, as I've kind of mentioned before. It's really just an exploration of the self. What does life mean? What do I mean? Who am I? And just this out of order journey through Western China. So, I think to most Western readers, even Eastern readers for that matter, might be struggling with this book because of those features. It's very atypical. This is really not like any book I've read before, and that means we don't know how to read it, or at least I didn't know how to read this. How do you read a book that's told in these perspectives? And so you have to learn. You have to learn what do these things mean, and how do I read this? What do different chapters mean? You know, those are all interesting ideas that are going to come up in this book. What else? So, I pretty much gone over a lot of my notes already on the book. I want to go back to really what is the purpose of this book? What is this exploring? And I think a lot of that comes down to identity, right? Like, who am I? Who are you? And that's very clearly seen in these point of views, right? I think what he's challenging us to do is consider different perspectives in order to understand ourselves. Or what is the self even? Really questioning all of those things and maybe trying to give us some insight into what it means to be a human. But the book is also more than that. The book comments on lots of things. It comments on life and death, certainly a lot of death, the magic of life, nature around us, just beauty in general. There's quite a lot of sensuality, sex in general in this book, which is actually quite awkward because a lot of that is told in the second person. So, you know, it's like, you touch her, and that comes off very strange for us as a reader because we are being like forced to perpetrate these actions against another character, whether or not we might have done this, which has made me uncomfortable. At least maybe you're fine with that. So a second thought, really, this book also, just in and of itself, wants to challenge the idea of what a book should be. And I think that's why it won the Nobel Prize. I don't think this book comments a lot on the issue that it thinks it does, like what is the meaning of life. I think it talks a lot about those, but I don't think it gives any meaningful insight that's really going to stick with you. You know, you're really going to keep thinking about that. I don't know if this is the book for that, but it certainly is challenging how we tell narratives. I think that's why it won the Nobel Prize. The Nobel Committee does not say that's why it won the Nobel Prize, but I don't know. This book is not that good. And that comes to my kind of concluding points. What am I reading this book? Do I recommend that you read this book? And that's a hard question. I don't think everyone should read this book. I think there are much better books out there, personally, to read that many people would love and enjoy. So, I don't know. I'm going to give this 2 out of 4 stars. Amazing concepts and what it means to write a book. Not a lot of great content. And I think you've noticed that because I really haven't talked a lot about content of the book, because I don't think there really is. I mean, 500 pages, and I really can't tell you a lot about what this is. So 2 out of 4 stars. I probably wouldn't recommend this, but if you want to challenge yourself with an experimental novel, go right ahead. I'll conclude by reading you a passage from the book to kind of give you a taste of what it will be like. I am perpetually searching for meaning, but what in fact is meaning? Can I stop people from constructing this big dam as an epitaph for the annihilation of their selves. He's talking about the Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze River. At this point, I can only search for the self of the I who is small and insignificant like a grain of sand. I may as well write a book on the human self without worrying whether it will be published. But then of what consequence is it whether one book more or one book less is written? Hasn't enough culture been destroyed? Does humankind need so much culture? And moreover, what is culture? Yeah. A lot to think about there. A lot to think about. And I think that's a lot of what the book is. A lot to think about. So if you want to think about a lot, and you want to read an experimental novel, and you want to win a Nobel Prize winner, go ahead and pick this book up. Otherwise, there's always another book on the shelf. Thank you.